Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are tackling a massive elephant in the corporate boardroom. We're going to uncover why enterprise AI initiatives really fail, and much more importantly, how to fundamentally shift your organizational mindset to actually fix them. Look, if you've ever felt like your company is buying all this cutting-edge technology, but just getting stuck in the mud when it comes to using it, you're in exactly the right place. Let's kick things off with a pretty shocking reality straight from the data. Nearly 80% of enterprise AI initiatives never actually reach production scale. 80%. And of the few that do, less than half deliver any measurable financial returns within their first 3 years. That is a staggering failure rate. But here's the secret. The technology itself, it rarely fails. It's the people, the processes, and the incentives that break down.
All right, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by looking at why AI initiatives fail, tackle the trust gap with probabilistic models, talk about adapting your actual organizational structure, see how to get management fully on board, and finally, wrap up with the quantitative metrics you need to track success.
So, Section 1. Why do AI initiatives fail?
It's honestly so easy to just blame the algorithm when things go wrong, right? But the data tells a completely different story. The core issue comes down to the 10-20-70 rule. Success is literally only 10% about the algorithms and 20% about the tech infrastructure. A massive 70% relies entirely on the human element in your organizational processes. Companies that struggle are usually flipping this ratio completely upside out. They're blowing their entire budget on the tech and spending almost nothing on the people. If your AI roadmap has 10 pages dedicated to tooling and just one tiny paragraph on change management, well, you're basically building your strategy on sand.
Moving to Section 2, Trust Gaps and Probabilistic Models.
We really need to dig into the psychology here. Why do employees instinctively push back on these new systems? It's not just your standard resistance to change. AI introduces a totally new cognitive hurdle. Just think about the stark contrast between traditional software and modern AI. Workers are totally used to deterministic systems, like a classic ERP. You put the same input in, you get the exact same output out, every single time. It's safe, it's predictable, and workers trust it implicitly. But modern AI? It's probabilistic, it varies, it's highly dependent on context, and it absolutely requires human oversight. That naturally fractures human trust. When an AI makes a weird mistake that a human colleague literally never would, it creates this massive rupture in user confidence.
And it goes even deeper, because AI actually shifts the locus of expertise. This resistance we see, it isn't just people being stubborn. It's a highly rational response to an identity threat. Imagine a senior analyst who spent 15 years mastering complex financial models. Suddenly, a tool comes along that can do it in 10 seconds. Her deep, hard-earned expertise suddenly feels totally undermined. She isn't just resisting the new software, she is resisting the underlying message that her years of experience might not matter anymore.
So how do we stop teams from just abandoning the technology altogether? The answer is explainable AI, or XAI. It is absolutely crucial for preserving human agency and rebuilding that lost trust through complete transparency. When an AI system transparently communicates its level of uncertainty and actually explains its rationale, users don't just rage quit when it makes a mistake. Instead, they learn to calibrate their reliance on it. They understand the why behind the output, which empowers them to safely step in and correct the system.
Okay, Section 3. Adapting the organizational structure for change.
Let's see how this psychological understanding translates into actual physical restructuring. You absolutely cannot just drop cutting-edge AI onto outdated legacy workflows. It just doesn't work. You have to fundamentally redefine roles, compliance steps, and decision rights. If your current process still requires a human to manually review every single document from scratch, exactly the way they did before the AI drafted it, well, all those massive time savings you were promised just instantly vanish. If your operating model doesn't explicitly adapt, the organization just defaults to its old habits, and that AI becomes a very, very expensive sidecar.
Let's look at how these structural fixes actually play out in the real world. Take a real financial firm with about 2,800 employees that was really struggling to get people to use their new AI assistant. They only managed to turn things around when they actively changed the rules. They negotiated new compliance protocols to specifically distinguish between AI drafts and human drafts. They actually tied AI adoption directly to performance scorecards. And my personal favorite, they took those threatened senior staff members and reframed them as AI trainers. By putting their best experts in charge of mentoring the AI, they beautifully restored their identity capital and turned them into the biggest advocates for the tool.
The crucial takeaway here is that before you commit a multi-million-dollar budget, you need a rigorous 90-day enterprise diagnostic. You've got to map out the human geography of your company, figure out who your early adopters are and who's actively going to block this. You have to stress test your operating model with highly specific use cases to find the friction points. And only then do you build out your targeted roadmap. Let me tell you, companies that try to skip this diagnostic just to save 90 days, they almost always end up losing 18 months of progress.
Section 4. Harnessing Middle Management for Success.
We all know change doesn't magically happen just because the CEO fires off a company-wide email. Middle managers are the real engine here. They have to guide their teams to treat AI differently. And I absolutely love this mental model. Treat the AI like a brilliant but totally inexperienced high school intern. It has raw intelligence, sure, but absolutely zero context about your company's standards, history, or preferences. Managers have to teach their teams to provide explicit context and clear goals, rather than just blindly trusting the output without monitoring it.
So how do we actually empower these middle managers? We can use 3 proven behavioral interventions. First up, buddy systems. Pairing people up with their peers completely bypasses the fear of being judged by a boss. Second, public failure rituals. I know it sounds crazy, but when a manager openly shares how they totally messed up an AI prompt and what they learned from it, it proves to the team that safe experimentation is highly encouraged. And third, quarterly friction audits. This is where managers actively hunt down and fix user experience bottlenecks, which proves to the team that their feedback actually leads to real-world changes.
Finally, Section 5. Quantitative metrics for evaluating success.
So how do you actually prove to the boardroom that this human and technological transformation is working? Look, if you bring the wrong numbers, you are going to lose your funding, for sure. We have to completely ditch the vanity metrics. Telling the board how many people clicked login or finished a boring training video, that tells you literally nothing about business value. Instead, you need to demand deep quantitative impact metrics. Track adoption depth. What percentage of eligible workflows are actually running through the AI? Track time to first value. How many days does it take from a user's first login to a measurable productivity boost? And track the voluntary advocacy rate. Are your employees actually telling their coworkers to use this tool? These are the real metrics that prove genuine organizational evolution.
I want to leave you with this one final, pretty provocative thought. AI is moving fast, and it is definitely not waiting for your company culture to catch up. So is your organization truly evolving its processes, its structures, and its people quickly enough to actually capture this massive value? Or are you just buying really expensive new tools and crossing your fingers? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time as we continue to unpack the future of enterprise success.